Hi there, I'm Emily Teacher, and today we're going to read together The Tigers Whisker. This folktale from Korea tells us how love can heal deep wounds, not quickly or easily, but with patience and courage. So we're going to read a folktale together here, The Tigers Whisker, um, from Korea about healing wounds with patience and courage. So let's find out more about this story here. Once Kim Soon-young's life was filled with happiness. She and her husband, Liang Po, one of the most affable of men, cultivated the fields of their small farm and raised 3 children with never an angry word spoken between them. But when war broke out, Liang Po was forced to serve in the army, even though he abhorred violence. While he was away, Soon-young and her 3 children worked hard to ensure the success of the farm. They took satisfaction in planting and harvesting, caring for the livestock, and keeping the farm buildings in good repair, all without outside help. The war, though, dragged on interminably. There were times when Soon Young grew despondent, thinking she would never see Liang Po again. But one day in the early spring, as she was drawing water from the well, she looked up to see him limping along the road toward the farm. Scarcely able to believe her eyes, Soon Young rushed to greet him and welcomed him home. So these 2 people living in a happy, loving home were having a very nice life when the husband was called away to serve in the army, right? Even though he hated violence and fighting. So the wife and children stayed and worked hard, even though the war kept going on for a long, long time. But then one day, the husband started to come up the road, right, limping, so maybe he was injured. She couldn't believe her eyes, but the wife Soon Young, she went to welcome him back home. Her joy was short-lived, however, for it did not take long to see that something was amiss. There had been a profound change in Liang Po. He who had always been ready for a joke or a romp with his children was now irascible and snapped at them without cause. He shut himself away like a recluse, responding to Soon Young's pleas that he join her and the children for an evening meal with a stony silence. If she persisted, he would launch into a tirade that caused her to flee his presence. He took no interest in the farm, no pleasure in his family, and refused to talk about what troubled him. In time, Soon Young, having lost patience with her husband, had no more dealings with him. So the husband had changed completely. He was now a very cold and quiet man. Liang Po's mother, who lived in the next village, was distressed by her daughter-in-law's unhappiness. She persuaded Soon Young to visit a local herbalist, a woman who was famous for as much as her sage advice as for her herbal remedies. Soon Young's sad story touched this woman's heart. Your husband undoubtedly witnessed terrible scenes while in the army, for that is the nature of war, she told Su Young. He is haunted by those memories. Fortunately, there is a cure, but it requires a whisker plucked from a wild tiger. When you bring it to me, you shall have the remedy your husband needs. So Sun Young went to this herbalist woman who said that she could help to cure the husband of his trauma, but that Sun Young would have to get a whisker from a wild tiger and bring it to her first. Very dangerous task. In a tremulous voice, Sun Young thanked the herbalist. The thought of facing a wild tiger filled her with dread, but she loved her husband, and this impelled her to follow the herbalist's instructions. She made her way to the tiger's lair, where she was greeted with a terrifying roar that reverberated through the forest. She fled in a panic, convinced that the wild beast was about to tear her limb from limb. Still, she found the courage to return the next day, this time with a piece of red meat. After smelling it suspiciously, the tiger devoured the meat. So Sun Young uses a tremulous voice to thank the herbalist. So she was really afraid to go see the tiger, and even it scared her off, but she came back with meat for the tiger. Day after day, Soon Young returned with more meat until the tiger grew accustomed to her, so that she was finally able to rub its head and tickle its throat without being afraid. At last, there came a day when she found the courage to reach out and pluck one of its whiskers. The tiger drew back and growled, but it did not attack her. Triumphantly, Soon Young returned to the herbalist with the tiger's whisker, entreating her to prepare the remedy she needed. So, because she had patience and kept earning the tiger's trust, she was able to pluck out one of its whiskers. The wise herbalist replied that Sun Young had already found the cure. If you can win the trust of a savage tiger, she said, surely you can find the patience to regain the affection of your husband, whose heart has been hardened by war. Sun Young thanked the herbalist for teaching her a valuable lesson. In time, her patience was rewarded when Liang Po was restored to his former self. So there was no need for the tiger's whisker, right? It was advice from the herbalist to treat her husband kindly and lovingly with patience. And soon after some time, it worked, and the husband became who he had been before the war again. Thank you for reading this story with me. We do have links related to each video. If you want the link for this one here, you can find it down in the description below.